Welcome to Her Incredible Mind, where we highlight the careers of women in STEAM-related fields. Today, we're speaking with Katie Cook, and we're excited to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate you reaching out. So looking forward to the questions today.
Thank you so much. So, Katie, could you give us an overview of kind of where you are right now in your career and what you're working on?
For sure. So my official title, I guess, is a director of sales strategy for Salesforce, which is a tech company that focuses on CRM. Sales strategy specifically really looks at how we are performing in our OU or our business unit. I work for public sector, and so I help our leaders look at where we can expand, where we should focus on, maybe where we can improve, and look at our goals for next year. And then I facilitate helping with quota setting, territory carving, that type of thing. So lots of numbers related stuff. Math that I never thought I would use again after high school has come back. But I love it. I love this job. I love the people that I get to work with, and I get to lead a team of really brilliant women, which I didn't really have the opportunity to do in my previous life, which I'm sure we'll get to because it was very male dominated. So I'm really, really blessed with the opportunities I have today.
That's great. Salesforce is a tremendous organization. I have used them several times in my career. We've chosen them as the platform within the industry, it's really come a long way. So it's an interesting, kind of roadmap that it's had for itself, and actually been very successful at deploying that roadmap.
I agree. And, I really love that our CEO, Mark Benioff, leads with this idea of doing service. And that's really what brought me to this company in the first place. I'm sure we'll get to it. I had a long military career before I transitioned. And so, I grew up with this idea of the life of service and giving back. And so it was really drawn to me that our CEO has those type of values, and our company really breathes those values. And you saw that during the pandemic. And I'm just, again, very blessed to have the opportunity to work for a company that really puts its money where its mouth is, so to speak.
Right. It's interesting because you bring up the pandemic, and I think that's really leadership really mattered much more even today than it did in the past. And it's amazing to see the CEOs that have risen to the occasions, people within even down the line, if you will, in their careers have risen to the occasion. It's an interesting dynamic that we're seeing today. It's nice to see that leadership come out. Very nice.
Absolutely. And I think the other point to that is, it's a different type of leadership to lead remotely, right? Being able to sit down and talk to someone face to face and read their body language is different than, through a camera. And so a lot of these people who have had traditional leadership training had to learn on the fly. And it's awesome that I work for a company where those people actually stepped up and not only led the company, but I would say led the business sector as a whole in how business can impact our country, our world in crisis, and how we can lead from the front. And I'm just so in awe of Mark and of this company and what they've done.
That's great. That's really great. I think that it matters. And when I think about roles that I am in, leadership does matter. So what do you think about when you think about new roles, or even your current role when you're deciding?
So I would say, my current role and even future roles, I like the opportunity to work with people that are like-minded, in that they are hardworking, they're dedicated, they are willing to kind of go the extra mile to, maybe if they don't know an answer off the top of their head, they're going to find it out and come back, right? Rather than a lot of hand holding. On the flip side, I do like to balance ideas and leverage other people's perspectives that maybe have a different background than me. And so I know I kind of started the answer with like-minded, but I mean like-minded value wise,
Mhm.
but different minded or outside the box
Right.
thinking from other people, because they challenge you and they maybe have you look at a problem from a different perspective. And that's why I think women representation in STEM or STEAM is so important, because we do have a different perspective just by the way that we live in this world as a quote unquote minority in STEM, right? And so I can give a quick example of that. I flew the C-130s when I was in the Marine Corps, and if you flew autopilot from the left seat, it was fine. I could reach the little knob that did it just fine. But when I sat in the left seat, because my arms were so much shorter than everybody else, when I leaned over, I could no longer see my instrument panel. And it was clear when they designed this aircraft that they didn't design it for somebody of my size. They designed it for somebody bigger. And so it would, if they had a woman anywhere in that process of designing over the last 20 years that it probably took to develop that airplane, um, it wouldn't have been an issue, right? And so that's why it's so important to get these different perspectives, and know a woman's perspective is definitely one of those in
That is
STEM.
that is a great commentary on on how design flawed. You kind of came to the top when you start thinking about kind of those dynamics of who will be flying this plane, who will be doing this, and how do we just tailored it really just for that
Yep,
one for that one kind of case study, if you will.
exactly. Yep.
It's interesting. So now, when you think about, what you've had in your career, everyone's had challenges, but what challenges do you think that you have overcome as you've come along?
So definitely in my first career, I'll call it my military career, I think some of the challenges that you face as a successful woman is that you there is this kind of underlying assumption that you got there because of your gender, that maybe you got an easier path, or someone gave you a leg up because they needed like a diversity candidate or a diversity spot to fill. And so that can be really frustrating for someone like me who was really stellar at their job, because I wanted to be recognized for my abilities, not for my gender. And so a lot of times I either had to overcome this assumption that I didn't deserve to be there, particularly on the Blue Angels. I was the first female pilot to fly for that team. And so people, not necessarily on my team, but some people would assume, oh, they just needed a woman because the Thunderbirds, which is our Air Force counterpart, had a woman for several years before I was there. And so, oh, they just need a woman to fly, and that's why they picked her. And in reality, I was a very good pilot. My husband was on the team with me, and I would say that I outperformed him, but he would beg to differ. But so I would say that was definitely something that I had to overcome. And then I would say in my second career here at Salesforce, a big thing that I've had to overcome has been internal, has been this imposter syndrome, where I'm like, I don't have a business degree. I don't have a sales strategy experience. I'm coming from the military where I flew airplanes in combat. How does this translate? Right. And so for a long time, I was trying to overcome, like, do I even deserve to be here? And luckily, I had amazing mentors, and both male and female in Salesforce, that really helped me see that I had these intangible skills, this type of leadership training, this calm under pressure, this project management, this ability to balance, all these different things that maybe I took for granted in the military because a lot of people do it, and it's not necessarily common practice in the civilian sector. And so I would say those are probably the two things that I had to overcome.
That's awesome. We hear a lot about women. We've had the pleasure of interviewing other women in the military, one from the United States Air Force, and another one from the Navy. And it's funny how those project management skills seem to come up multiple times, because you're really thinking about, kind of regimented and scheduled, and really being on your game as far as, going through a plan and accomplishments. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see that across all kind of women that are in the service that we've interviewed so far, which has been really neat.
Very much so. And I would say, other skills that come with that are like cross-functional leadership, being able to get somebody to do a job when you don't necessarily have a formal chain of command. So that is definitely some skills that I've developed. And then I would say, being able to speak to people in a position of authority. When I was on the Blue Angels, and when I was on my last tour active duty, I was briefing colonels, generals, or higher on some of the things that I was doing. And so I'm able to talk to our president or several of our SVPs without getting that fear or that nervousness, because I've done it before. And so it definitely took sometimes, though, my mentors pushing me and saying like, look, you do have these skills that may not be a formal certificate from University of XXX, that says you have an MBA, but you do have experience from the Marine Corps for the last 12 years. So
Yeah, life experience for me is critical. When I've looked at people that I'm hiring throughout my career, I've always looked more at the life experience than anything else. I feel like, one, there's an opportunity to give somebody life experience if you can tell that you can try to put the dots together. And I really enjoy doing that, giving somebody that opportunity to shine or to rise and get to where they want to be. But also, life experience is something I think that practical experience really helps something to get done a little bit quicker and a little bit with that seasoned kind of approach to it. Like you said, able to speak to the board, able to speak to the president of the company, or able to speak to a customer and have a really hard conversation. It
yeah.
comes with life experience. It's nice for to bring people up to the ranks and make sure that they get exposed to that. But I think it's something you need to nurture along the way. So,
And Kate, I think that's so important, especially in this pandemic lifestyle that we're in. There's a lot of people who are looking to make a change, right? People are burnt out, specifically women. They're looking to make a change. And I think if there are hiring managers, like you just said, as you were doing throughout your career, that see different experience, maybe not the traditional route, but they see this, hey, this person was in the military, or maybe this person was in a completely different career. But as I mentioned earlier, bringing these outside perspectives that can give you a new, fresh look at the problems that you're trying to solve, sometimes that can be so valuable that people don't really see it. Sometimes they value this, oh, they grew up the traditional route, but sometimes it's those people that make waves, that make the biggest impact and make the biggest change. And I love it that you're willing to take a gamble on these people that maybe are looking to make a change, or maybe they were stay-at-home moms, maybe they had a couple babies and they want to come back to the workforce. That experience of raising a whole human, right, is really important, and people sometimes don't value that. And I think that's really important.
it's a big project raising a human.
It is. I've done it 3 times.
Right? Exactly. I have one going off now to college, so
Yep.
it's going to be a big project again. So
Yep.
it's great. And I thank you for that. It's I think sometimes you have to go with your gut, and some people feel more comfortable with kind of the traditional manner, and I understand. For me, it's about the feeling that I get when I'm actually kind of interviewing somebody, and what they could be, not what they are right now. And how do I, try to help make that happen? That's
Yeah.
part of what I try to focus on. So when we think about our career, you obviously did not start at Salesforce, and women traditionally have done a lot of career changes, and it's a great thing. Sometimes we head out of school or just from from work, from another job, and we say, you know what, this just isn't for me anymore. Speaking of the Great Resignation,
Yes.
and where do you find that in your career, you obviously did not start at Salesforce, like I said, but what do you feel about your experience in the military?
So I would say that the leap to Salesforce from the military was quite honestly one of the scariest decisions that I've ever made. And I've been in combat, so that should give you an idea, right? So it was really scary, but it was what was best for my family. I had I have 3 young children, and the idea of deploying again for long periods of time, leaving them all the time, just wasn't in the cards anymore for me. I still wanted to serve my country, and so I'm a reservist now. So I'm able to still give back and still wear the uniform 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, while still building a career at Salesforce. And so I would say, yes, I did not have a traditional path, but all of those intangible skills that we've listed earlier in this conversation have really enhanced my ability. I think I bring a disruptive look at things, which is good sometimes,
Mhm.
as we mentioned earlier. I would say that I also bring structure that I think, maybe not that my work center didn't have structure before, but mine is to the extreme, being a Marine, obviously. So I think that structure has helped us reach more efficiency in our day-to-day workings. And so, I think that if you are looking to make the leap, even if it's scary, whether that's from the military to something else, or stay at home mom to something else, whatever it is, if you're looking to make the leap, there are and just as your organization has shown, there's so many women that have done it, and there's so many that are willing to help and guide and mentor. And I would really, really encourage somebody to do that. Reach out to someone who's made the same move, because it can help calm some of those fears or help guide you when you're lost. And while it takes a village to raise a child, I think it takes a village to navigate life, right? And you can't do anything alone. And having such a network of strong women around you that have done it, I think at least for me, helped me get over some of that fear I had of making the jump.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing when you're surrounded by women that just really want to, I hate to use the term all the time, but lean in and really help
Yeah.
each other, and especially younger girls. I have a friend who is, coming up through the ranks, and she's younger than me, considerably younger than me, and she's switching jobs, and it's a
Hmm.
scary thing at that age, you know what I mean? Because
Yes.
they associate so much of that move to whether it's going to make or break their career in the end. And that
Yes.
it's a hard thing. It's hard to gain the courage. So I agree with you. Having that mentorship, having those women involved in your life that are able to kind of give you the pros and the cons, if you will, of what the move is going to entail, you know what I mean, and how it's going to
Yes.
actually impact you,
I
and when
agree.
when it wasn't a good decision, or is it an okay decision? It's definitely.
I I 100% agree. And I think the second part of that is, yes, you should be reaching out looking for mentors. But once you're in a position to mentor yourself and pass it along to the next generation, that's really important as well. And I have several at Salesforce that I meet with biweekly or once a month to just kind of give my own feedback and work through problems with them from a different perspective. And I think it's really important to continue passing along your knowledge, to the next generation of women.
Absolutely. So we talk a lot about our younger self in this program, and we talk about what our advice would be to younger girls. Most of the time, the advice that we give to younger girls is the same advice that we give to ourselves when we
Ourselves,
were young.
yes.
So, what advice would you give to your younger self?
So I get asked this question a lot in a different way. Like, what would you recommend someone who wants to be a Blue Angel? Is kind of the question that I get, and it's all the same answer. And I say, calm seas don't make a skilled sailor. And so what I mean by that is, it's not the easy times in your life. It's not the calm seas or the smooth sailing that make or break you as a person. It's those failures, it's the rough times, it's the adversity that you face, how you deal with that adversity, how you internalize the lessons that you learned that make you a better person, make you a better leader, make you a better mom in some cases, or a better worker, whatever it is. But calm seas don't make a skilled sailor. It's how you deal with failure or rough times, and how you internalize those lessons that will shape you in the future.
Absolutely. There's so many lessons learned when the seas are not that calm.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly, that is so true.
so if you had to limit your LinkedIn profile to 3 words, what would it be?
Ooh. Um, I would say leader, driven, and mother.
Awesome. That is awesome. Thank you, Kate, so much for being with us today. I think that you're fantastic, and I think that what you're doing is tremendous. And I would say that you're courageous because you are totally, on both sides. You're a mom, you're working, and you're flying with the Blue Angels. How much more awesome can happen? That is so awesome. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We hope some girl will be really inspired, and we know that they will be by your story.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I'm really active on social media, on Instagram, Twitter. Gear Up Flaps Up is my handle. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me there. And I also have a website, katiencook.com. If anybody's interested, they can get a hold of me there as well.
Thanks, Katie.
Sure thing.